Minato Seno looks at the girl sitting beside him in class. Mugi Nekozane is sleeping peacefully on her desk, like always. The teacher suddenly shouts at her to stop sleeping in class, but she does not react at all. Even when the teacher tries to wake her using a rolled-up paper, she keeps sleeping calmly. Seno thinks it's amazing how deeply she sleeps. He has never even properly seen the face of his strange new classmate before. Then the teacher calls out to him. Since Seno sits beside Nekozan, the teacher asks him to remind her whenever she falls asleep. He explains that she sleeps very heavily and needs someone to wake her up often. Hearing this makes Seno panic inside. Ever since he was a child, he has always been shy and timid. Even now, he still hasn't had a proper conversation with any of his classmates. To him, reminding a girl during class feels like an impossible mission. The teacher pats his shoulder supportively and leaves the responsibility to him. Seno nervously agrees. Later, Takada laughs loudly over the phone after hearing Seno's problem. He asks if Seno is really worrying over something so small. Takada thinks it's hilarious that his prediction about Seno struggling in high school came true exactly as expected. Then he asks how Seno's high school debut went. Seno remembers trying to change himself with hair wax and contact lenses, but he became so nervous that he felt sick and had to visit the nurse's office. Takada laughs even harder while Seno sadly says all the classmates have already formed their own friend groups. Takada tells him not to worry. He says Seno just needs to make 1 or 2 friends since high school has only started. Seno quietly agrees. After ending the call, Seno thanks Takada and promises to buy him a meat bun next time. Feeling slightly motivated, he decides to do his best to make a friend. The next day, Seno opens the classroom door, only to find the room completely empty. Then he suddenly remembers everyone has already moved to another classroom for the next class. He looks toward Nekozan's desk and realizes she is still sleeping. Thinking she will be late, he nervously walks over to wake her up. He softly calls her name and tells her they need to hurry. But while he is trying to wake her, Nekozani suddenly wraps her arms around him. Seno freezes in complete shock. Still half asleep, she hugs him tightly and softly calls out the name Masamune. Then, without warning, she falls back onto her desk and immediately starts snoring again. Seno's face turns bright red. It is also the first time he has properly seen her face. Completely overwhelmed, he quickly runs out of the classroom. Outside the study room, Seno desperately tries to understand what just happened. He wonders who Masamune Shiratama could possibly be. He even imagines a samurai with that name and doodles a tiny picture of him. Still confused, Seno peeks back into the classroom later, only to discover Nekozani's desk stayed empty for the rest of the day. She had apparently gone home early. Seno cannot stop wondering what kind of person she really is. While walking home, he notices a sign for a cat cafe on the 2nd floor of a nearby building. He wonders why he never noticed it before. As he walks upstairs, someone suddenly calls out to him. To his surprise, it is Nekozane. Stunned, Seno awkwardly says her name. She asks if he wants to visit the cafe, and before he realizes it, he follows her inside. Cats immediately gather around him. Watching Nekozane there feels completely different from how she acts at school. For a moment, Seno even wonders if he mistook her for someone else. Nekozane places a can of cocoa on his table. Seno tells her he never ordered it. She suddenly leans closer and asks why he knows her name. Then she directly asks who he is. Seno quickly explains that they are classmates and sit next to each other. After hearing that, she accepts his explanation. A nearby cat walks over, and Nekozani picks it up lovingly. She calls the cat Masamune and asks if it already had a snack, leaving Seno confused again. She hugs the cat closely and gently rubs her face against it. At that moment, Seno suddenly realizes something. That is exactly what she did to him earlier. He finally understands that while half asleep, she mistook him for the cat. Nekazane proudly says that cats are noble creatures far superior to humans. She introduces the cat in her arms as Masamune, then points at another mischievous cat named Shiratama. She also points at a third cat named Kinako, saying it throws up a lot. Seno comments that taking care of all those cats must be difficult. But Nekozane softly smiles while holding Masamune and says it really is not hard at all. Seno becomes captivated by her gentle expression. He realizes he never knew she could smile like that. His heart suddenly starts beating faster. Before leaving, Nekozane asks him not to tell anyone she works there. As she turns away, Seno quickly stops her. He struggles to find the right words while she calmly asks what he wants. Finally, he awkwardly introduces himself. "My name is Minato Seno." The moment he says it, he wonders why he suddenly gave her a formal introduction. Nekozani quietly pauses for a second. Then she points at the cocoa can on the table and gives a small smile. "Think of it as a hush fee, see it, neighbor-kun." Her unexpected teasing leaves Seno flustered. That night, Takada calls him again. Seno asks if there is some secret to getting along with people easily. Takata immediately realizes the shy Seno must be interested in someone. Seno describes her as someone who loves cats, acts like a cat, and has large eyes. Takata confirms that Seno is definitely talking about a girl. Seno continues, saying that even though she usually looks expressionless, she sometimes shows a very kind and gentle side. He admits that he wants to know more about her and hopes they can become friends. Takata bluntly tells him that what he is describing sounds more like love. Seno immediately gets embarrassed, but Takata decides not to push him further and lets him figure it out himself. Then Takata tells him the first step he should take. The next morning, Seno opens the classroom door. Nekozane is standing near the entrance. Seno walks to his desk, then turns toward her. Gathering his courage, he smiles and says, "Good morning." Nekozane stares at him blankly and asks who he is, so Seno nervously introduces himself again. After thinking for a moment, she finally remembers him from yesterday. Seno quietly sighs in relief. Takata's advice from the previous night was very simple. First, just say hi. He told Seno that anything was fine as long as he started a conversation. Seno thought showing Nekozane his drawing might help him talk to her. His heart pounds as he gathers his courage and walks up to her. Suddenly, he pushes the drawing toward her and blurts out that he wanted to show her something. Nekozane stares at the drawing for a moment before calmly saying it looks ugly. Seno freezes in shock. Completely defeated, he quietly returns to his seat. Meanwhile, Nekozane falls asleep again like nothing happened. Seno sits there in silence, wondering if becoming friends with her is even possible. Later, one of Seno's classmates comments on his new look with contact lenses. The student says it is a big change, but something still feels missing. He suggests opening the front of his jacket to look cooler. Seno immediately worries that it would make him look like a delinquent. He nervously glances around at the other students wearing their jackets open during the entrance ceremony. Even thinking about it makes him feel awkward and uncomfortable. As usual, Nekozane is sleeping at the desk beside him. Another student tries waking her up, pointing out that she's always sleeping, but she does not react at all. Seno watches her with a small smile, once again thinking about how much he wants to become friends with her. While staring at the sleeping Nekozane, Seno suddenly realizes something shocking. He does not even know her first name. He wonders how he could possibly ask for it. Thinking about directly asking her makes him cringe from embarrassment. There is no way he could ever do something so bold. Then he suddenly remembers the class journal. Thinking he finally found the answer, Seno quickly opens it. But to his disappointment, Nekozane only wrote her last name. Her comment in the journal is also extremely short. Seno thinks she will probably get scolded for writing so little. He tells himself that if he keeps living normally, he will eventually learn her first name somehow. But deep down, he already knows that chance will probably never come. While walking home, Seno thinks about how people rarely use first names anyway. Suddenly, a cat appears nearby and meows at him. Curious, Seno carefully approaches it and wonders if it is a stray cat. Luckily, the cat is friendly and lets him pet it. After thinking for a moment, Seno decides to call the cat Mugi. To his surprise, the cat immediately meows back. Shocked by the reaction, Seno repeats the name again. Then he suddenly hears a voice behind him. When he turns around, Nekozane is standing there. Seno almost jumps in surprise. He honestly thinks she might be a ninja, since he never heard her walk up. Nekozane points at the cat and explains that it is a Sakura cat. Seeing Seno's confusion, she explains that people in the neighborhood probably help take care of it. She then shows him the cat's ear, which has a small cut shaped like a cherry blossom petal. Seno becomes worried, but Nekozane calmly tells him it does not hurt the cat. She explains that the mark means the cat has been spayed or neutered. It helps control the stray cat population and prevents more cats from being abandoned or put down. Nekozane quietly comments that the idea of controlling cat populations feels strange. Seno notices again how she says things in such a dramatic way. Then Nekozane looks at him and mentions that he called the cat Mugi. Seno explains that he simply thought of the name randomly. Nervously, he asks if the name sounds weird. Without hesitation, Nekozane says it is a little weird. Seno looks completely crushed by her blunt honesty. Then Nekozane explains the real reason. Mugi is my first name. Seno immediately panics. Realizing he accidentally called the cat by her name, he quickly apologizes over and over. He worries he made her uncomfortable, but Mugi calmly says it is not a big deal. She explains that she is just not used to people calling her by her first name. At that moment, Seno suddenly realizes something important. He finally learned her first name. Before he can say anything else, the cat suddenly runs away. Seno watches it leave with disappointment. Mugi stands up and asks if he is also heading home. Seno quietly says yes. Even though he is happy he learned more about her, he still feels like Mugi has no interest in him at all. As they part ways, Mugi suddenly turns around and says goodbye to him using his name. Seno freezes in surprise. Mugi then asks if she remembered it correctly and confirms that he is Minato Seno. A flustered but happy Seno quickly tells her she got it right. Mugi calmly points out that his voice is cracking. Seno watches her walk away, feeling strangely touched that she remembered his name. Later that evening, someone at the dinner table asks Seno why he seems to be in such a good mood. Minato Seno still wants to become friends with his seat neighbor, Mugi Nekozane. However, he has no idea how to properly talk to her. On top of that, she is almost always asleep at her desk, making conversations nearly impossible. One day, Seno notices that Mugi is actually awake for once. She seems focused on something on her phone. Seeing the headphones in her ears, Seno realizes this might finally be his chance to talk to her. Gathering his courage, he awkwardly asks if she is watching a video. Mugi looks at him and simply says yes. Then the conversation immediately dies. Inside his head, Seno desperately begs for help from his communication expert friend Takata. Still, he feels relieved that Mugi at least answered him. Trying to continue the conversation, he asks what kind of video she is watching. He assumes it must be cat videos. Instead, Mugi reveals she is watching a high-pressure washer cleaning dirty walls. Seno becomes confused. He cannot understand why someone would enjoy watching dirt get cleaned away. Since Mugi seems willing to continue talking, Seno knows he has to say something, but he struggles to come up with a response. Finally, he awkwardly comments that her taste in videos is pretty unusual. Mugi simply agrees. That night, Takata calls Seno again. Takata starts trying to ask him about something from the other day, but quickly notices Seno sounds distracted. He asks if Seno is watching something. Seno casually explains that he is currently watching videos of dirty walls being cleaned with high-pressure washers. Takata is completely confused. Seno tries explaining that repetitive cleaning videos can somehow become addictive. When Takata asks how long he has been watching them, Seno admits it has already been around 4 hours. Takata immediately questions his sanity. He worries high school life might already be breaking Seno mentally, but Seno denies it. Then Takata excitedly asks how things are going with the girl they talked about before. Seno sadly admits that their conversation completely failed. He explains that he only started watching those cleaning videos because he saw Mugi watching similar videos at school. Seno thought that if he watched them too, maybe he would have more things to talk about with her next time. He also admits he became genuinely curious about them himself. Hearing all this, Takata sincerely tells Seno that he is cheering for him from the bottom of his heart. Still, he advises Seno not to spend too much time obsessing over it. The next morning, Seno gathers his courage and says good morning to Mugi. This time, she actually greets him back. Encouraged, Seno tells Mugi that he checked out the cleaning video she watched before. He excitedly explains how satisfying it feels watching dirty things slowly become clean. He says someone could honestly watch it forever. Then he asks if she also finds it fascinating. Mugi immediately says no. She explains that she only watched it out of curiosity and did not think it was that interesting. Then she casually shows him a cat video instead, saying watching cats is way more entertaining. Seno becomes speechless. Once again, he feels like he completely said the wrong thing and wishes he could disappear into a hole somewhere. Suddenly, Mugi moves very close to him. She points at the screen and excitedly tells him to look carefully because the cat in the video is Shiratama. Before Seno can react, she suddenly places one of her earbuds into his ear. Realizing the sound was off, Mugi apologizes and asks if he can hear it now. Seno instantly becomes flustered by how close she is. His heart starts beating so loudly that he cannot even focus on the video anymore. Mugi notices his strange reaction and asks if he's okay. As she quietly laughs to herself, Seno wonders if her sense of personal space is completely broken. Smiling softly, Mugi asks him if Shiratama looks adorable in the video. Seno nervously agrees. Later during art class, the students receive an assignment. They must draw portraits of the person sitting beside them. During art class, Minato Seno ends up paired with Mugi Nekozane. Both of them politely say they are looking forward to working together. As Seno starts drawing her portrait, he quickly realizes how nerve-wracking it is to stare at someone's face so closely. While looking at Mugi, he notices how long and pretty her eyelashes are. Then he suddenly realizes something. Mugi is not posing at all. She has simply fallen asleep again. Panicking, Seno tries waking her up. He worries that he will end up submitting a drawing of her sleeping. Mugi slowly opens her eyes and sleepily suggests that he should just draw her awake from imagination. Seno immediately protests, saying that drawing someone from memory would look strange. After thinking for a moment, Mugi agrees to stay awake for only 3 minutes. She tells him to memorize her face properly during that time. Seno is shocked that staying awake longer is apparently not an option for her. Mugi sits properly and calmly announces that his 3 minutes have started. She tells him to look carefully and remember her face. The pressure completely overwhelms Seno. Being forced to stare directly at her makes him incredibly nervous. Before the 3 minutes are even over, Mugi starts falling asleep again. Seno quickly points out that 3 minutes have not passed yet. Mugi apologizes and explains that she simply starts drifting off without noticing. Seno is amazed by how naturally she falls asleep. Just then, the teacher announces that it is time to switch roles. Now it is Mugi's turn to draw Seno. She immediately stares at him with an intense, unblinking gaze and tells him not to move so she can finish quickly and go back to sleeping. Under her constant stare, Seno becomes more and more nervous. Eventually, he gets so flustered that he can no longer look back at her properly. After holding his breath for too long, he finally exhales loudly. Mugi asks if he's okay. Embarrassed, Seno explains that he accidentally held his breath. He awkwardly compares the situation to a scene from a movie, though Mugi does not seem to understand what he means. As she keeps drawing, Mugi suddenly points out that Seno has moles. She specifically mentions one near his right eye and another on his neck. Surprised, Seno confirms that he has had them his whole life. Mugi quietly says this is the first time she noticed them. Seno realizes they are tiny details most people would never pay attention to. The fact that Mugi looked at him closely enough to notice them makes him secretly happy. Then he immediately feels embarrassed for being happy over something so small. While looking at her again, Seno notices her long eyelashes once more. He quietly thinks about how much he wants to know more about her. After class, Seno compares their finished drawings. His portrait of Mugi looks fairly normal and detailed. Meanwhile, Mugi's drawing of him is extremely simple. As Mugi peacefully sleeps nearby again, Seno realizes there is still so much he does not understand about her. Elsewhere, the rescue cat Cafe Mew is busy as usual. A small white cat keeps licking Mugi's face while she works. One of her coworkers asks if she already handed out the cat snacks. Mugi calmly says yes, while the cat continues attacking her face affectionately. Mugi looks confused as the cat keeps licking her non-stop. Meanwhile, Seno thinks about how it has already been a week since he started greeting Mugi every morning. Back in middle school, he never started conversations with anyone. Even though greeting someone sounds simple, for Seno it feels like a huge step forward. The next morning, Seno happily greets Mugi when he arrives at his desk. Mugi quietly returns the greeting, but her response sounds strangely hesitant. Seno immediately notices something feels off. Later, he watches Mugi sitting silently near the window and wonders what is wrong. Suddenly, she softly says his name. Seno immediately becomes nervous. Mugi asks him to answer honestly. Then she directly asks if he has any thoughts about her. Seno panics internally, but honestly says he thinks it would be nice if they could talk more often. Feeling nervous, he bows his head and asks her to be his friend. The moment he says it, he instantly regrets it. In his mind, he already imagines himself being rejected. Meanwhile, Mugi also becomes confused by the sudden request and struggles to think of how to respond. Trying to fill the awkward silence, Seno blurts out a strange comment about how she sleeps a lot in class, which somehow seems healthy. Completely confused, Mugi quietly says she understands. After that conversation, Mugi continues sleeping like usual. While watching her sleep, Seno thinks the sunlight near the window might be bothering her, so he reaches over to close the curtains. At that exact moment, Mugi wakes up and sees him standing over her. Flustered, Seno quickly explains that he was only trying to close the curtains. Mugi quietly says she understands. Then, without warning, she moves her entire desk farther away from his. After school, Seno collapses onto his bed in despair. He becomes convinced that Mugi completely rejected him. He overthinks everything, wondering if moving her desk meant she could not stand being near him anymore. Unable to sleep properly, he keeps asking himself what he did wrong. He remembers that everything seemed normal until yesterday, and cannot understand what changed. The thought that he may have accidentally hurt her feelings terrifies him. He wants to apologize, but he does not even know what he should apologize for. The next day at the cat cafe, Momoka notices Mugi carrying sweat wipes and asks if she feels hot. Then Momoka realizes Mugi is still thinking about what happened recently. Mugi remembers how Shiratama would not stop licking her before. She worried the cat kept licking her because she smelled sweaty. Momoka immediately reassures her that the cat was simply showing affection. Then Momoka notices something else. She points out a small stain on Mugi's shirt. Curious, Mugi suddenly realizes Shiratama was licking that exact spot. Momoka leans closer to inspect it and notices a faint smell of churu cat treats. She figures Mugi accidentally got some cat food on her shirt while feeding the cats. Mugi is shocked by the discovery. Now she feels embarrassed because she basically smelled like cat food the whole time. Her coworker laughs gently and assures her nobody noticed. The next morning at school, Senyo nervously enters the classroom again. He sees Mugi at her desk and prepares himself mentally before greeting her. Still worried about yesterday, he carefully walks over and pulls out his chair. Before he can speak, Mugi suddenly turns around and greets him first. Senyo freezes in shock. This is the first time she has greeted him before he greeted her. He quickly stammers out his own greeting in return. Later, Senyo notices Mugi watching videos on her phone again and assumes they are cat videos. While peeking over curiously, he accidentally gets caught staring. Embarrassed, Senyo awkwardly asks if he can watch together with her. Mugi asks if that is okay, and he quickly says yes. Then she casually moves very close to him while using her phone. Senyo immediately starts panicking because she is sitting way too close. Mugi shows him a picture of her cat sleeping in a funny position, but Senyo is too distracted by her closeness to focus properly. Looking at her, he realizes she seems completely normal like always. Mugi explains that the cat in the picture is Ohagi and points out how weirdly it sleeps. Senyo quietly agrees while internally floating with relief. He becomes happy knowing she does not actually hate him. Mugi continues showing him more cat pictures while talking about her cat's strange sleeping position. Then both of them suddenly notice a smell spreading through the classroom. They realize a classmate nearby is eating French fries. Senyo smiles after noticing it is already lunchtime. Then, once again, Mugi suddenly moves her desk away from his. Senyo can only silently accept it while Mugi hides her face in embarrassment. Later that night, Senyo lies on his bed completely confused again, wondering why this strange situation keeps happening. The next day, Senyo quietly greets Mugi again. She softly greets him back. As he sits beside her, Senyo clenches his fist nervously. Even though she acts normal, he still cannot stop thinking about everything that happened before. He secretly worries that maybe she dislikes being close to him. Senyo wants to become friends with her, but he is scared of what she truly thinks about him. More than anything, he wishes he could understand what is going on inside her mind. Later, the class begins discussing a group project. Senyo worries their topic idea might overlap with another group's. As everyone talks, he feels awkward because he has no idea when he should join the conversation. Suddenly, one of his classmates directly asks for his opinion. Caught off guard, Senyo panics and desperately tries to think of something useful to say. Another student's idea gets rejected almost immediately. Nearby, Mugi looks unhappy. Senyo assumes she is frustrated because the discussion is going nowhere. But after looking carefully, he realizes she was not upset at all. She was simply trying not to yawn. Then someone asks Mugi if she has any ideas. Mugi calmly says she is fine with anything, as long as it is not troublesome. The group eventually agrees they need to organize everything before the next class. The group leader asks who is free to work on it after school. Two students immediately say they already have plans. Senyo remembers that a book he reserved at the library is finally available. But after seeing nobody else volunteer, he decides to handle the work himself. He tells everyone not to worry about it. After the others leave, Senyo quietly stays behind and starts working alone. Senyo quickly realizes the amount of work left for the group project is far too much for one person. As he looks at the huge pile of tasks, he starts wondering if he can really finish everything in a single day. From the classroom doorway, Mugi quietly watches him. Senyo looks up in surprise when he notices her standing there. Mugi apologizes, saying she ended up leaving all the work to him. Flustered, Senyo quickly says it is fine because he volunteered to do it himself. Mugi asks if he is really okay handling everything alone. Senyo smiles and reassures her that he can manage. Mugi quietly wishes him luck before turning away. Senyo sighs in relief, thinking the awkward conversation is finally over. He returns to working alone at his desk. Then he suddenly realizes something. Mugi never actually left the classroom. Confused, Senyo asks why she is still there. Mugi calmly says she has some free time. She pulls a chair next to him and explains that she still needs to copy the class notes anyway. Soon the two of them are quietly working together in the otherwise empty classroom. Senyo asks if she is really sure she wants to stay. Mugi explains that her shift at work does not start until 5 o'clock. Then, after hesitating for a moment, she quietly asks him something unexpected. "Do you hate being around me?" The question catches Senyo completely off guard. Mugi honestly admits that she would personally rather go home instead. Senyo is stunned by how bluntly she says it. However, she quickly adds that leaving him alone with all the work would feel wrong. She points out that the amount of work is clearly too much for one person. Senyo agrees and quietly admits he is happy she stayed. Mugi says that if they work together, they should be able to finish it. Then she softly tells him to do his best with her. Encouraged by her words, Senyo finally confesses what had been bothering him. He explains that he thought she disliked him because she kept moving away from him lately. Mugi looks surprised by his misunderstanding. She immediately explains that it was only her own problem and had nothing to do with hating him. Hearing that fills Senyo with relief. Looking at the clock, Mugi notices it is almost time for her to leave for work. She offers to take half of the assignment home and finish it later. Senyo tries saying she has already helped enough, but Mugi simply pulls out her phone. She offers to exchange contact information with him in case she has questions while working at home. Senyo nervously agrees. The two of them add each other on their phones. While looking at her profile picture, Senyo tries guessing the name of the cat in the icon. Later, Senyo continues working on the project, alone at his desk. He keeps replaying Mugi's words in his head. She doesn't dislike me after all. Just thinking about it makes him feel relieved. Suddenly, his phone vibrates with a notification. His heart immediately starts racing as he wonders if Mugi sent him a message. But when he checks, it is only a store advertisement announcing a new product. Completely disappointed, Senyo collapses onto his bed. He still is not sure if they can really be called friends yet. Even so, just having her contact information makes him feel like he made a little progress. Still, he quietly complains to himself that she never actually texted him. At the same time, Mugi is struggling with part of the assignment at home. She looks at her phone and considers asking Senyo for help, but after checking the time, she decides it is too late to call him. The next day at school, Senyo watches Mugi sleeping beside him like usual. Curious, he leans slightly closer to look at her sleeping face. Almost immediately, he regrets doing it and feels guilty for staring. More than anything, Senyo truly wants to become her friend. Remembering how much she helped with the assignment, Senyo decides he wants to thank her properly after she wakes up. Unfortunately, class ends before she even opens her eyes. Eventually, Mugi finally wakes up, looking half asleep and confused. Senyo gathers his courage and prepares to talk to her. But before he can say anything, Mugi suddenly stands up and announces that she is late for work. Then she rushes out of the classroom, leaving Senyo behind. Afterwards, Senyo decides to send her a text message instead. He carefully writes a message thanking her for helping with the assignment. However, he becomes nervous about sounding too formal since it is their very first time texting. After hesitating for a long time, he finally sends the message. A second later, he suddenly hears a phone notification sound nearby. Confused, Senyo looks toward Mugi's desk. Her phone is still there. Realizing she accidentally forgot it, Senyo quickly grabs the phone and runs after her. By the time he reaches the school gate, he is completely out of breath. Unfortunately, he already missed her. Then he remembers that she said she was heading to work. That thought leads him back to the rescue cat cafe, Mew. Senyo carefully opens the cafe door and peeks inside. Immediately, a staff member gently warns him to wait before entering, so the cats do not escape outside. Senyo quickly apologizes, but the employee kindly tells him not to worry. He explains that he only came to return something Mugi forgot, specifically her phone. The employee introduces herself as Momoka Usagihara and explains that Mugi stepped out for shopping but should return soon. With a warm smile, Momoka invites him to wait inside the cafe. Senyo awkwardly sits down, feeling slightly out of place surrounded by cats. Soon one of the cats climbs onto his lap, helping him relax a little. Momoka sits nearby and casually starts talking to him. She mentions that the cat Masamune actually used to dislike people. Then she asks how Senyo knows Mugi. Senyo explains that they are simply classmates. Momoka realizes that means they are in the same grade. Senyo comments about how easy it is to get lost in a large high school. Laughing, Momoka says she experienced the same thing before. Since they are around the same age, Momoka says there is no need to be overly formal and introduces herself properly. Senyo also introduces himself as Minato Senyo. While talking to her, Senyo quietly thinks Momoka seems like a very kind person. However, behind her friendly smile, Momoka is secretly suspicious. She wonders if he is really just a classmate. After all, she never heard Mugi talk about any boys before. The fact that he somehow found the cafe also makes her cautious. Momoka quietly decides that if Senyo turns out to be a dangerous person, she will immediately protect Mugi from him. Then her interrogation begins. She asks if he talks to Mugi often, or spends time with her outside school. Senyo quickly denies ever hanging out with her privately. Still, he explains that they do interact often in class because they sit beside each other. He mentions things like group projects and art class while Momoka carefully listens. Momoka proudly says she has known Mugi much longer. She explains that they attended middle school together and ate lunch together almost every day. Senyo admits that they must be very close. Momoka proudly agrees. However, she then quietly admits that even she still does not fully understand Mugi sometimes. Senyo softly says that he thinks Mugi is a very kind person. Then he honestly admits that he truly wants to become friends with her. His sincere expression completely surprises Momoka. Right then, Mugi finally returns to the cafe. She looks surprised to see Senyo there. Momoka happily welcomes her back and explains that Senyo came to return her forgotten phone. Senyo nervously hands it over. Mugi notices a new text message on the screen and thanks him. Senyo's heart pounds while she reads the message he sent earlier. After reading it, Mugi calmly tells him that helping with the assignment was no trouble at all. Senyo becomes so flustered that he can barely respond properly. Watching his reaction, Momoka immediately realizes something. That expression on his face is clearly the expression of someone in love. Smiling brightly, Momoka tells Senyo she will support his efforts to become friends with Mugi. Although Senyo feels touched by her kindness, Momoka secretly decides she will continue keeping an eye on him for now. Later, Senyo remembers Momoka's supportive words and thinks she really is a nice person. Because of that, he becomes even more determined to change himself during high school. More than anything, he wants to become someone who can talk to people normally. At school, Senyo glances toward Mugi, sleeping at the desk in front of him. Then he notices something strange. Her back seems covered in tiny light-colored hairs. Thinking he imagined it, Senyo rubs his eyes and looks again. This time he realizes the truth. Mugi's clothes are completely covered in cat fur. The fur shines under the sunlight. Senyo becomes amazed by just how much fur is stuck to her clothes. It honestly looks like she rolled around inside a giant pile of cats. As class begins, Senyo wonders what could possibly have happened to her earlier. Then the teacher notices the fur, too, and casually asks if it came from her pet cat. Senyo immediately panics. He worries the teacher might discover she works at the cat cafe and force her to quit her part-time job. Leaning forward nervously, he whispers for Mugi to wake up quickly. Mugi slowly raises her head with sleepy eyes and glances back at him. Senyo keeps trying to warn her about the fur on her clothes. Finally, Mugi seems to realize that something is wrong. However, Mugi only pulls her hoodie over her head with a confused look on her face. Then, just like that, she falls asleep again. After class, one of the classmates comments that at least the teacher did not notice the cat hair properly. But Senyo feels he cannot just ignore the situation. He tries again to get Mugi's attention and explains that her back is covered in cat fur. This time she finally understands. Without hesitation, Mugi starts shaking her hoodie aggressively to remove all the fur. Senyo is shocked by how bold her method is. Cat hair flies everywhere around the classroom. Senyo quickly grabs a broom and dustpan to help clean everything up, while another student opens the window. After finishing, Mugi smiles and thanks him. As they clean, Senyo asks how so much fur even got onto her clothes. Mugi explains that it happened after he left the cafe yesterday. In her memory, one cat dragged away her hoodie, while another bit onto the hood. Meanwhile, Masamune rolled all over the hoodie nonstop. The cat kept rubbing and rolling around on it until closing time. Mugi even took pictures because she thought it looked cute. As she shows the photos to Senyo, he notices how genuinely happy she looks in them. Then Mugi casually mentions there is still some cat fur stuck below her neck and asks him where it is. Senyo awkwardly gives directions while she scratches around trying to find it. Watching her struggle makes Senyo think it would honestly be easier if he simply helped her himself. But he remembers that she dislikes being touched. Even so, the remaining fur keeps bothering him. While he hesitates, Mugi suddenly turns toward him with a curious look. Then she reaches out and carefully removes something from Senyo's jacket. She tells him there was one on him too. Mugi explains it probably got onto him while he was helping clean. Holding it up, she identifies it as one of Masamune's whiskers. The sudden closeness immediately makes Senyo flustered. Seeing his reaction, Mugi asks if his stomach hurts. Senyo quickly insists that he is completely fine. Later, Mugi scrolls through the social media page of the rescue cat cafe, Mew. One of the newest posts is about a mischievous cat named Sock causing trouble again. The picture quietly makes Mugi laugh to herself. At that moment, someone greets her from behind. It is Minato Senyo. Mugi looks up from her phone, slightly surprised to see him looking unusually nervous. Senyo greets her and takes his seat beside her. Meanwhile, Mugi notices a social media post filled with emojis and immediately guesses that Momoka made it. She lets out a huge yawn while Senyo nervously sits beside her. At that moment, Senyo remembers a painful phone call with Takada from the night before. Takada had asked him how things were progressing with Mugi. Senyo struggled to answer because he still was not sure if they could even become proper friends. He explained that while Mugi probably did not dislike him, her sense of personal distance was very strange. Sometimes she stayed far away from him, but other times she suddenly got extremely close. Takada immediately suggested that getting close might mean she was interested in him. Senyo had never even considered that possibility. Still, he argued that Mugi often seemed eager to leave quickly, which made him think she probably was not interested at all. To Senyo, it honestly felt more like she simply did not think much about him, one way or another. Takada found her behavior interesting and compared her personal space to a cat's. Then Takada suddenly announced that it was time for Senyo to undergo a makeover impossible to ignore. Senyo immediately imagined Mugi thinking he looked creepy for suddenly trying too hard. But Takada insisted that a dramatic appearance change would at least make her notice him. Even now, Senyo silently curses Takada while remembering the conversation. Still, despite his doubts, he hopes the makeover might actually work. That morning, Senyo nervously arrives at school with a new hairstyle. He quietly waits for Mugi to notice the change, but she does not react at all. As class starts, Mugi simply lowers her head onto the desk without even looking at him. Senyo feels completely defeated. She did not notice his new hairstyle in the slightest. Embarrassed, he wonders why he even bothered trying. Looking at himself in the mirror later, he feels the hairstyle does not suit him anyway. Even after changing his clothes and hair, he still lacks confidence. More than anything, Seno wishes he were simply better at talking to people. Frustrated with himself, he tries pushing away his negative thoughts. Then he starts wondering how he can possibly get Mugi to notice him more. As he walks back toward class, something suddenly irritates his eye. He stops and winces in discomfort while trying to figure out what is wrong. Back in the classroom, Mugi is still looking at her phone when Seno quietly returns to his seat. His gloomy expression finally catches her attention. Seno rubs his eye and wonders if his contact lens shifted or if something got stuck inside. Mugi quietly watches him with concern. Unable to fix the irritation, Seno groans in frustration. Mugi notices he seems different than usual and starts wondering if he might secretly be angry about something. Distracted by his eye problem, Seno accidentally knocks his eraser off the desk. Mugi picks it up and offers it back to him. Surprised, Seno turns toward her. For a moment, Mugi herself reacts like a startled cat and awkwardly apologizes while handing him the eraser. Seno looks at her in confusion because his blurry vision makes it hard to see clearly. Then Mugi suddenly leans in, extremely close to examine his eye. Seno completely freezes from shock. Mugi stares closely, trying to see what is wrong. At that exact moment, their classmate Eri Kawasaki walks by and becomes startled by how close they are standing. Finally, Seno realizes Mugi was simply trying to tell him he dropped his eraser. Embarrassed, he quickly thanks her and takes it back. Later, Mugi talks to her coworker about what happened earlier. She admits that being so close to Seno made her feel strangely nervous. Her coworker reacts in complete shock after hearing that. After school, heavy rain suddenly begins pouring outside. Seno stands near the entrance without an umbrella and wonders what he should do. Then he notices Mugi standing there too. He wonders if she also forgot her umbrella. Mugi quietly pulls her hood over her head while staring at the rain. To Seno's surprise, she suddenly dashes outside into the storm. Seno watches her run off while worrying if she will be okay. Then a loud thunderclap shakes the sky. The sound startles Mugi so badly that she immediately runs back toward the school entrance in fear. Completely soaked, she returns to where Seno is standing. Seno quickly asks if she is okay. Still shaken, Mugi admits that the thunder scared her so much she thought she was going to die. Seno suggests they wait for the rain to stop or maybe call their parents for a ride. Another loud rumble of thunder echoes outside. Mugi flinches again. At that moment, Seno realizes she is genuinely afraid of thunder. Mugi decides to wait inside the nurse's office until the storm passes. When Seno asks if that is allowed, she explains that she only uses the room when nobody else is there. Then she quietly adds that everything should be fine as long as nobody finds out. Unsure what else to do, Seno decides to wait in the classroom instead. Back in class, he listens while the other students arrange rides home. Eventually, everyone leaves, and Seno ends up completely alone. Even though he tells himself there is nothing he can do to help Mugi, he still cannot stop thinking about her. Soon, Seno finds himself standing outside the nurse's office. After hesitating for a moment, he slowly opens the door. Inside, Mugi is wrapped tightly in a blanket while sitting on one of the beds. Startled, she looks up at him. Seno quickly apologizes for scaring her. Mugi points out that he still has not gone home yet. Seno awkwardly lies and says he stayed behind because he wanted to see the school nurse. Mugi seems to accept the excuse. Outside, the heavy rain continues pouring non-stop. Inside the quiet nurse's office, the two sit together in silence. Mugi stays wrapped tightly in her blanket, while Seno sits nearby on a stool. Trying to break the silence, Seno comments that the rain shows no signs of stopping. Suddenly, another loud thunderclap shakes the building. Mugi flinches hard and hides completely under the blanket. Seno immediately realizes she is far more scared than he thought. Mugi explains that she usually blocks out thunder by listening to music through earphones. Unfortunately, she forgot her earphones today. Wanting to help, Seno offers her his own earphones. But almost immediately, he remembers that many people think sharing earphones is gross. Embarrassed, he quickly tries taking back the offer and apologizes. To his surprise, Mugi calmly asks if she can still borrow them. Stunned, Seno hurriedly pulls out alcohol wipes and starts disinfecting the earphones. Mugi tells him that he really does not need to do all that. Seno awkwardly explains that sometimes strange fluids leak from his ears. Concerned, Mugi asks if he's okay. Then Seno suddenly remembers he owns wireless earbuds instead. He quickly tells her to wait while he connects them to his phone. Mugi quietly agrees. After connecting them, she places one earbud in her ear and says she wants to listen to the kind of music Seno usually listens to. Mugi puts on the earbud and listens carefully. A moment later, she realizes the audio is just an English vocabulary lesson. Seno immediately becomes embarrassed. Mugi quietly comments that he must be studying very hard. Right after saying that, she suddenly sneezes. Worried, Seno asks if she is okay. Thinking she might be getting cold, he quickly says he will turn on the heater. As he walks toward the air conditioner controls, he notices a warning sign saying students are not allowed to use it without permission. Seno hesitates while staring at the switch. Then Mugi quietly tells him that at this rate, he is the one who will catch a cold. At that moment, Seno remembers something she said earlier. As long as nobody finds out, it should be fine, right? After thinking for a second, he finally presses the button and turns on the heater. Mugi looks up at him and softly laughs in appreciation. Eventually, the rain starts calming down. Relieved, Seno says it looks like they can finally go home now. The two walk together through the quiet school hallway. Seno awkwardly asks if the school nurse ever showed up. Mugi looks confused by the question. Then she reminds him that he was the one who claimed he stayed behind to see the nurse. Caught in his own lie, Seno immediately panics. He quickly makes up another excuse about needing to stop by the staff room before hurrying away. As he walks off alone, he sighs heavily. To him, it feels like he completely failed and was no help to her at all. Meanwhile, Mugi watches him leave. Now she starts wondering if he was actually lying earlier. She quietly questions why he really came to the nurse's office. Outside, the rain has finally stopped. Mugi looks up at the clear sky and realizes something. The thunder did not feel as scary as usual this time, and she thinks it might have been because Seno was there beside her. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps more than you think. And if you'd like to support me further, consider joining my Patreon. I'm not making much from the channel at the moment, so every bit of support truly means a lot. You'll get ad-free videos and shoutouts as a thank you for helping me keep this going.
Please subscribe. I need this. My mom is kind of homeless.